That's just dust off that. All right. 2 foot. Let's get a few of these pieces. Backing. Alright, so I got such a goofy cutout. They went 25, 24. So on patches, I like to cut the recessed part off. It causes a deep patch, so I always cut the recessed area off whenever I'm doing patchwork. If people put these recesses are meant for two recessed edges have to be together, so when you tape it, it fills in the recessed factory edge. But if you have a recessed edge against a cut edge, now it's going to be deep on this side. So it's easier for me just to cut the recessed part off my sheetrock. This is a trade secret. A lot of guys just think you hang sheetrock, but you only do recessed edge against recessed edge. Cut edge against cut edge always. Some things change. If you can't help it but use a recessed edge, then go ahead, but it's going to cause you more mud work. So cut edge with the cut edge patch. Alright, so that other one's 24 and a half. 24 and a half. Take my T-square. Okay. Alright, let's go frame it up. Backing. Still a sheetrock piece. Still a sheetrock piece. Go this way. That way. This one I'm going to go this way since there's metal brackets. optional. You don't have to use it, but I like to use it for extra bonding. I like to go past. Rain. Let's treat it like it's gonna rain. Don't want water getting in there. The only problem with having a pickup truck with no trailer or tonneau cover, when it rains, I'm gonna put my expensive sheetrock in the cab just in case. This sucks. Good thing I'm in an area that it only rains maybe twice a year. Just in case. Now I'm wishing I didn't have all this scrap garbage sheetrock. Just in case, if it gets wet, then the sheetrock will be garbage. Most of it is already garbage scrap pieces anyways, but I'm trying to save some materials when I can. This is obvious. Yep, gotta love a working truck. Dirty work truck. I don't want expensive plastic getting soaked. What is this doing? Alright. Treat it like it's gonna rain. Now this is why I have lids on my buckets. Rainy days like this. First coat mud and clean my pan. This is my scraping knife. This is my good 6-inch knife. Sometimes the knife's dirty. I like to sand them. The sanding block before I start any coating process. You don't have to do this every day, but you have to do it probably once a week at least, especially if you work with blue steel knives. It's just taking the rust off and any goobers off the knives. The knives get really bad. You have to sand them really good. But I know my knives, I didn't work for a couple days, so I sprayed them with some lubricant, like a WD-40. So that's why there's oil coming off. Good to go. Let's go ahead and mix first coat mud, fill in this patch. Another 5-minute mud. If you do patches every day, then you're okay using hot muds. If you're not a patch man, just stick to regular joint compounds. Mix it up thoroughly. I like to do the mix by pan technique. I'm sure you guys seen plenty of YouTube videos. Everybody has their own damn technique. Well, for patchwork, just mix up a pan's all you need if you're working with hot mud. Alright, let's go coat our patch. Nice heavy consistency, real heavy, look at that. It's first coat. Yeah, this is a bad patch. She's going to rain. Yes, I had to fill in that second patch, was a bad patch. That's what that second area I did at the end. Throw it in there. We're giving 110%. Clean your tools. Always clean your tools after you're done coating. Alright, while we wait, let's mix texture. 5-minute mud. Sometimes it takes 5 minutes or so to start setting up. While the mud's setting up, we'll prepare our next steps. Texture. I always use joint compounds for my textures. This is capped off mud. A bucket like this usually lasts me a week on these repair jobs. Joint compound from the box dumped in the bucket, mixed up. I have a playlist, a material playlist on mixing up muds straight out of the box into a bucket. Consistency is always a creamy, thick pancake batter consistency. The texture's ready. I keep the lid on it. Don't want to get no raindrops, leaves in my mud. So I keep a lid on them. I always mix with the hand stomper. It's easy. I don't have to pull out drills and extension cords and running power. It's mixed up. This is my scraping knife, so I keep it with my basic hanging tools. Next step, slick out. Like most of my videos working with these hot muds, we do a slick out technique. A damp sponge, a clean straight 6-inch knife. We're going to slick out that hot mud as it's setting up, not after it sets up. We have to do it before it fully sets up. It's a 5-minute mud, so it's been about 4 or 5 minutes now, so let's go check on it. Or actually, look, I have some mud here. Nope, it's not ready, so I'm not going to waste my time going in there and waiting on it to dry. So sometimes if you have a little bit of mud on hand, sometimes I used to just wipe it on my work clothes. Be like, nope, nope, okay, it's ready. Nope, it's still wet. So we'll just hurry up and wait. Basically, getting that first coat on is the most important process. That way you get the mud on there and it starts setting up. Now we're easy selling from here. All downhill now. But yeah, let's just let that set up a few minutes. This is a good time to check my phone, text messages, check my emails and stuff like that while the mud sets up. Hot mud, like I said, five minutes or so. We like to check on it and see where we're sitting up on the setup time. All right, mud's kind of tacky. It's not fully set up, but it's starting to set up, so let's go in and slick it out. Almost to the edge. Extra mud. Look, it's raining. Good thing I put my sheetrock away. Man, I'm glad I got that sheetrock inside the cab. Hey, yeah, water your yard on a rainy day in the winter. People. Alright, you've seen I took off a lot of mud when I was slicking it out. So that was a good buildup. Took off the extra mud. So the second coat's just going to be a tight skim coat. I'm going to do a tight skim coat again with this 5-minute hot mud. And a little more just in case. I'm going to feather it out further past the patch. Keep the lid on nice and tight. I don't want rain droplets getting in my mud. You get rain droplets in the mud, it'll set up like little rocks in your mud. Same as first coat, mix it up a pan. This time we're going to make it a tad bit thinner. The second coat is not a fill coat. We already did the fill in. Plus slicking it out, that almost slicking out process is almost like a second coat, because you're taking the extra mud out and you're feathering it as you're slicking it out. So it pushes in and it removes the extra mud. So it almost looks like a second coat once you're done slicking out properly. Add a little more, just sprinkle it in. If you didn't do a heavy enough first coat, then you might have to do 3-coat process on this. But with this, it's still kind of thick, so I'm just going to sprinkle a little more. We're just making the mud creamy. It's not a fill mud now. Now it's just going over a tight skim coat over my first coat to fill any chatters, any waves, any imperfections. Alright, let's go second coat this. Tight skim coat. Alright. Took it up further and wider. To put my mud on the whole patch before I skim out. Feather your edges. Alright, mixed too much. Oh well. I like something extra mud. Some garbage plastic. Don't dump it where you're going to step on though. Let that second coat, skim out coat set up, and then we can slick it out again like we did with the first coat. Always clean up your tools after you're done working with hot muds, any type of muds really. Like I didn't clean up this pan really good, and I've caked on mud from the last job where there was no water. So we're going to clean up our tools pretty good, try to get this hot mud off. We have time now that we're waiting for the mud to set up. Hurry up and wait, gives us extra time to do this extra stuff that needs to be done. Clean up tools, put stuff away, set yourself up. See, if you don't clean your tools right away, now you got to scrape your tools, get in these crevices. This knife's Works good to get inside those grooves. This pan's getting old. I want to get a new pan. This is an 18-inch pan. I prefer to use a bigger pan because I mix larger batches of hot mud. So that's why it's easier for me to mix pan by pan and do a large patch area with one pan of mud, because I use an 18-inch drywall pan, which now are hard to find. I can find a 12-inch pan, 14-inch pan all the time, but 18-inch pans and over, you're going to pay for them. So I'm going to try to make this pan last. It's kind of bowing out here. I like a nice straight metal edge, so when we clean our tools, it gives us a nice edge, or when we scoop mud, we're not getting like that. We're getting more mud in the center. So if I can, I'll try to straighten it up. It's just use and abuse. I'll usually rock a pan until I have to buy a new one. These things, you don't think they're expensive, but a cheap one's 30 bucks or more, so that's crazy. $30 for a drywall pan. Maybe in your area, most guys use Hawk and Trowels. I'm on the West Coast. We're West Coast riders. So we use pans and knives in the West Coast. I'm sure a Hawk and Trowel work great for certain applications, but for mixing pans of hot mud, I think working out of a pan's the best way. That's the way I've learned. I'm sure Hawk and Trowels have their benefits, pans have their benefits. It just depends on the trade person, how they were taught what to use, the tools of the trade. But we're pan and knives, different knives too. I always get just a 6-inch, nice 6-inch hammerhead 6-inch. I like the hammerheads because they're more durable. They can hammer a nail in if the nail or something sticking out of the wall. That's what that hammerhead's for, so you can hammer anything sticking out of the wall. Screw heads, nail heads, stuff like that. Any bulges, you can use that to dimple down the drywall so you can fill it in. 12-inch knife, I prefer a 12-inch knife. A lot of guys like to use 8-inch knives, 10-inch knives, 12-inch knives, 14-inch knives. Hey, instead of buying yourself 10 different knives, just learn how to use one of them first, okay? So 12-inch knife's my go-to knife, 6-inch knife, a nice pan, basic stuff. Always a sponge, water bucket, mud bucket for your texture, and then your hot muds. And I like to keep the lids on. If you notice, I got these buckets. These buckets here, they sell for $3 with a lid. So if you go to this place right here, you can buy a bucket and a lid sometimes for $3, and the money goes to a charity. So it's wins for me because these are nice heavy-duty buckets, and I'll buy all of them up. If they have them for sale, 5 or 10 of them, I'll buy all of them just to have them. If you just buy a lid alone at the store, it's $5 a lid. A bucket's $5. You're spending $10 or more for some crappy thin plastic buckets. These are heavy duty. They smell like pickles though. That's the only problem, but if the pickle smell goes away. But let's go ahead and check on our first coat. It's starting to rain now, so let's go in there and check on it and see what needs to be done. Instead of coming back and forth, let's go ahead and get the pan of texture. I know I need texture. I don't need the big knife anymore because we're just going to texture it with a smaller knife. I know a lot of guys say a small knife, that's crazy. But trust me, a 6-inch knife, a straight 6-inch knife with joint compound doing a skip trowel texture works perfect on patchwork. I got my mud, got my sponge. Let's get out of the rain. This is crazy. Mostly the edges. Actually bring a light inside. The cloud cover kind of got dark in there. I can see what I'm doing. I could probably do drywall with my eyes closed because I've been doing the texture so much. But we're gonna put a light on the patch to make sure the patch is good and make sure our texture pattern matches. So let's light it up. Okay. Alright. Nice light. See what we're doing here. I put the tape there now. Real heavy skip trowel. If it's really heavy, you do a double skip. Then trowel it down. Start marks, feather off your start marks. We're just going to take it out further and wider. like to check different angles. Lighting, shadowing changes your point of view. So what looks good in one direction might not look, but double check all your work. Knock it down. Trowel it down. Feathered the two together, feathered it out further and wider so it blends in nicely. All that for a 2x2 patch. All right, my joint compound textures, any extra mud's always dump them back in. That's a good thing with joint compounds. You don't have to waste joint compounds. If you're new to mudding and drywalling, this is your first time project, or you only done a handful of drywall projects, just stick to joint compounds for any type of repairs. You've seen I was mixing hot muds. Hot muds are more intermediate professional grade materials. If you're in a time crunch, you'll have to work with them, but they're less forgiving, like a joint compound. A joint compound has to dry overnight, but if you do make a mistake with joint compounds, you can sand it away. You can sand away your errors. Hot muds are not so forgiving. Hot muds say they can be sanded. Sure, you can sand it if you like sanding cement, because that's basically what a hot mud is. That's why they call it a hot mud. It chemically sets up, almost like a plaster cement. It's a strong material. So that's why I do the slick out technique before the hot mud sets up, because it's hard to sand. If I was going to sand hot mud, I might as well just use joint compounds and come back the next day. So you never sand hot muds unless you let them set overnight. And the only time you'd let hot muds set overnight if they weren't setting up correctly, which they do once in a while. Clean up your tools, put your tools away. Go inside, clean up, and that's pretty much it. You're going to let that patch dry for 24 hours or so, and then turn around and sand it, primer, and paint.